If there is one flute technique that my students either are terrified of or seem to avoid practicing at any cost, then it's trills. So today, consider this your kind of crash course in how to play trills, what they are, how to practice them really well, and I'm really going to teach you how to fish because I'm going to teach you how to read and understand a trill chart. Hi everyone, my name is Tatiana, this is the Flute Practice, and it is my mission to equip you with the right materials, teaching and tools to help you really excel at this instrument. Trills are surprisingly common in flute music. In fact, I don't know an instrument that trills quite as much as the flute. Probably because we're like very often the bird character in so many pieces of music, but I think the instrument just lends itself well to trills. A trill is a rapid pitch variation between a note and the note just above it. So two adjacent notes. So in other words, a trill on an A, we're going from the A, we're going to go to the B, and we rapidly move the finger backwards and forwards to create an effect that sounds like this. It's really beautiful and you can hear why it's pretty much sounds like a bird, right? A trill always adheres to the key signature that you're in. So for example, if I was in F major and I had an A trilled, it would always be trilling to the B flat unless there's some kind of other indication. We're going to get into different types of trills in a moment, but very important to note that you could start the trill on the upper note, so on the note above the written note with the trill. So for example, in the A trill, you could start it on the B, or you can start it on the note on the actual A itself. And there are some specific rules that govern when you do this. You can see here the trill is written like that. So we have the note with just this little indication on top, the TR. You could also have a little squiggly line along with that. Sometimes you'll have things like just a plus sign to indicate that there needs to be a trill. And sometimes we'll even have other little things like just a little mordant, which technically isn't a trill. It's a mordant, which is like a baby trill. It's just the first little tiny part of a trill. And this is one way that it could be written out, excuse my very skewed lines, but because the trill is not measured, it's quite difficult to really accurately write this out. Neither should we really attempt to do so, except for practicing purposes, which we'll get into in a moment. So the biggest thing a trill adds to music, it's an ornament. It literally adds a little bit of extra frostings on top of your cake. It's a little bit of a cherry on top, but it also adds a little bit of weight and significance to certain parts of the music. And trills are very often used at so-called cadences or cadential points, fancy word, but basically this kind of ending sequence at the end of a big phrase or even a section of music or an entire piece. We have these kind of resting points. So for example, and I'm going to use a really basic example here, if I was playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, that's kind of the ending there. And if I was playing this in with a trill, I could do and it just adds a little bit of, I don't know, gravitas, a little bit of weight, a little bit of ceremony perhaps to the ending of that phrase. So that's one use for trills, but trills very often can just add kind of a little bit of extra decoration to the piece. They can even add a sense of lightness when they're not used in that cadential point, where they just create this sort of very frivolous, frilly, trilly sounding piece of music. Like that. Totally unnecessary, but sounds cool. Now there are different types of trills, and we want to just go over those different types of trills. We've spoken a little bit about the fact that they're not really measured. We can't really write them out. And that's because sometimes we have faster trills, other times we're going to have slower trills. So, for example, in the piece that I just played, we have really fast, tight little trills. But if I was playing something that was a little bit slower, more graceful, I wouldn't want it to be quite so fast because it would sound really out of character. If I played slowly, it would sound really odd and weird. So we want to have slightly different types of trills depending on the context of the piece, on the style of the piece, on how fast or slow the piece is, depending on what we want to say. And sometimes, honestly, just in you know, depending on how fast our fingers can actually just move. But there's one really big distinction for trills that I've already alluded to, which is we have got different styles of trills depending on what period of music we're playing in. Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Here's the basic rule. Basically, anything that is written before more or less around 1800, we would start the trill on the upper note. So by that I mean, if you've got a trill on an A, so remember the A trill, we're now trilling to the B, we'd start, instead of starting on the A, we'd start on the upper note, which is the B. So it would be like that. And usually we'd create a heavier upper note, what we call the appoggiatura or the leaning note. We'd create a heavier upper note and then trill down to the note. Don't worry about this too much. It's a kind of whole discussion for another day. But it's just important to note that some trills start on the upper note and then pretty much everything from around, the dates here are like a little loose because it's, you know, it's not like one day somebody woke up and was like, let's play trills differently. It's gradually changed. But let's say around sort of from 1800 to 1830 onwards, we generally start the trills on the note unless otherwise written in, specifically by the composer. Okay, that's the rule. That's the rule. Okay, let's get into the good stuff, which is how on earth do you play the trills? So the first thing I want to just teach you is how to read a trill chart. This is really, really critical. So here we have a whole trill chart, which by the way, we have linked you to down below. You can go get your free copy of the trill chart, go and grab it. But here we have the trill chart. And what you'll see typically in a trill chart is you'll see the basic fingering. And okay, let me just find that trill that we've just played. So for example, that was an A to B trill. So what it shows you is it shows you which fingers are going to stay down. The black shows you which fingers stay down the whole time. And the gray, this light gray, tells you which finger is going to move up and down. Okay, so here, this is that finger. You'll see here G sharp to A. We hold down the fingering for G sharp and we're going to move those fingers like that. Okay, so A to B, that's your moving finger. G sharp to A, we're going to hold the G sharp down and then we trill those two fingers like that. And that's basically how it works. Mostly it's just one finger moving, except sometimes, like there, we've got two fingers. Some fingerings are bizarre. We've written in some of the harder ones, like these ones up here, and they get really tricky and complicated. And to be honest, you're going to play them maybe once in your life, if even. Some of them you might never play. So don't get too hung up about the challenging trills, stick with the easy ones. What is really important to note though, which you may not have even known existed, is that you have got specific trill fingerings. For example, if you're playing from C to D, you've got this little trill key, your first trill key over there that you would use. If you are playing in the second register, you would actually use the second little trill key. Sometimes to get to D sharp, you'd even use both your trill keys, but these are really nifty little trill keys that you're going to need whenever you're playing a trill around that sort of C to D area. You also have got a so-called B flat trill key, a little less useful than the other one, but sometimes we use it. And some of you might even have your C sharp trill key, which also really helpful when you have got a B to C sharp trill, which is just normally really irritating. You have to lift both these fingers up and it can be quite tricky. So that trill key can help, but mostly you just need these two little trill keys. They are so useful. We have also got special fingerings for trills like the D to the E, where it's almost the same, but we do not need to put the little finger down each time for the E. Here, quite a big difference. We're not going to finger the E. We're just going to move that one little finger. E flat to F is another good example where we hold down the E flat fingering and we just move that one little middle finger. So again, we're not fingering the F and the E flat each time. We're just using a so-called trill fingering and moving one finger. Another really common trill fingering is the E to F sharp, where here we are actually going to hold the E down and then just move here this index finger in your right hand to get that trill. Okay, the next big question, how to play trills and how do we practice trills? Now here's the thing about trills. Trills requires the best of your technique. It requires you to have really released free hands and fingers so that those fingers can just move. It's kind of like if you're tapping your fingers, you really want to tap your fingers very, very, very quickly. You cannot do it if your hand is really tight and if you are trying to tap those fingers. Usually if I ask you to tap, most of us can tap quite quickly and effortlessly without even thinking about it. We go into these nice little quick reflexive actions. And that's really what we need for trills. It is not trying, it is not forcing, it is not trying to get that finger to move. Rather, it is teaching that finger to just be able to tap and really lightly flip so that it can get that lovely trill. And for that, we need good hand position. We need good quality finger movement. We need to have a nice released and free body in general, especially our upper body. Everything needs to be nice and loose to facilitate good technique. So that's my first recommendation. Make sure that you've got a good balanced hand position. Make sure that you've really spent some time releasing your body, releasing your fingers, making sure that you've got good quality movements there. We've dropped a video down below on hands, how to get faster fingers, what types of things to look out for, so you can go watch it over there. But that is your first step. Then we're going to get our metronomes out. So you're going to put your metronome on to 60 beats per minute. And we're going to practice just our A to B trill to start off with. So you're just going to be practicing that trill. And we're just going to move the finger up and down, 2 per beat for starters. So very calm, relaxed hands, fingers. Let's go. Da, da, 2, 3, and 4. And And then you do 3. So now you're going to do da, 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 1, which is tricky because you have alternating patterns here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and. Once that is really starting to feel comfortable, you can be nice and calm and relaxed. We go on to 4. You're going to do 4. So now da, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going a little too fast here. 3. And again, once it's starting to feel really calm and relaxed, we can go on to the next one, which is 6. And for 6, you're going to think 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, do 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 like that. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This already gets quite challenging. Are you able to just keep that finger still nice and free? Let's try it again. 1, 2. Good. We do this in time and in rhythm, even though we're not going to play our trill eventually like this, so that you learn how to control the finger, because usually what happens with the trill is the finger just gets way out of control and just does its own thing. Okay, so we want to still have a controlled, even finger, even if the trill is not technically measured, if that makes sense. Okay, next step, 8. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. 1, 2. You might feel everything just having to relax and that finger just having to really tap nice and lightly. If you're struggling to get the faster notes, go back to the slower ones, build it up, build it up, build it up. It'll come eventually. After 8, you're going to go into your free trill and see if you can get a nice, even, consistent trill. Just like that. And again, we're looking for that lovely, free tapping movement of the fingers. You could do this with every single trill, if you like. You can literally go through, or you could do this with just a couple of trills, the tricky trills, and for that, you might want to check out our trill resource. We have a whole resource that walks you through each of the trickiest trills on the flute. We've kind of grouped them into different levels of tricky trills and helps you learn how to practice them and really work with them on a daily basis. We've dropped a link to that down below so you can go check it out. So there it is, our mini deep dive into how to practice and play your trills. They are so great to do. You can imagine if you do this with all your fingers, you're going to get really good finger technique anyway. So don't neglect them. You have no more excuses. Go practice your trills. Have practicing. And you might want to go and watch this video next and see if we can start sorting out these fingers in general.